Imagine this, you are a Japanese peasant in 1581, slightly past the middle of the Sengoku period. The demon king of the 6th heaven is coming through your village on his way to Kyoto. From the window, you take a peek to see his entourage. You spot what will probably be the tallest man you have ever seen. But something else piques your interest, something you've only heard rumors of. His skin color, darker and silkier than any you have ever seen before. That, my friend, is, or rather who you just saw, was and is still the only samurai of African descent. From Japanese anime and manga to American animated TV series and blockbuster video games, countless stories retell the legend of one man. But who is this mysterious figure who has inspired so much media? How did he come to serve the most powerful man in all of Japan? To answer that, we have to go back. Not here yet. Just a little further. Yeah. This is where the story begins. From the 2nd century till the 16th century, China was the gateway to trade in much of Eastern Asia. All goods and services of value flowed through the empire. And on top, controlling the flow of this trade was the son of heaven, the Chinese emperor. He demanded subordination, which was more ceremonial than political, and its interpretation varied across kingdoms to which trade was granted. Between 607 and 839 BC, the early rulers of Japan sent a total of 19 missions bearing guns to the Sui and Tang dynasties. These missions, which were originally political and largely ceremonial, gradually evolved into a channel for cultural exchange. Over time, cultural exchange became their primary purpose, as Japan sent hundreds, if not thousands, of people to China to study art, medicine, politics, and religion. By 1404, during the reign of the Ming dynasty, the Ashikaga Shogunate, probably seeking legitimacy back home, became a tributary to the Ming, joining the Chinese tributary system and taking the Ming title, King of Japan. But the thing is that the Ashikaga Shogunate was one of the weakest, if not the weakest shogunate in Japanese history. They found it difficult to truly unify the island. And if that wasn't enough, they were plagued with succession crisis, which created an environment that led to constant warfare and power struggles. By the middle of the 16th century, the Ashikaga Shogunate had become so weak that two different warring factions presented themselves as representatives of the shogunate to the Ming. The Ming accepted the tribute of the Hosokawa and turned away the other family, the Ochi, who in protest attacked the Chinese port town of Ningpo, killing and looting the locals. The Chinese, understandably enraged by what had happened in Ningpo, requested that the Ochi be extradited to China. However, with the Ashikaga Shogunate, which essentially was not a functioning government, lacked the strength to carry out this request and failed to comply. Unwilling to get involved in the local politics of Japan, China expelled Japan from its tributary systems and territories, banning all trade with Japan. Failure to abide with this proclamation was punishable by death. Some of China's allies in places like Korea also placed a ban on both diplomatic and trade relationship with Japan. Over time, the imports of exotic goods into Japan became scarce. With this, Japanese buyers were willing to pay significantly more for these goods, and as such, merchants from other Asian states that traded through China opened their doors to Japanese ships. Even some Chinese merchants were ready to risk death to trade with Japan in secret. The lack of centralized power in Japan meant that various trade deals were struck with various local lords, as Japan entered a period of trade openness to the outside world. Fast forward to 1511, when the Portuguese were granted the right to trade with the Chinese port of Guangzhou. This gave them access to the highly sought after Chinese goods, which they began to trade with Japan at a very profitable rate. By the 16th century, Japan had emerged as a vibrant hub of trade, commerce, and innovation. Its doors were wide open to the world beyond China, embracing new ideas, products, customs, and stories. Proximity to foreign goods and influences became a symbol of power, as access to international trade represented the most valuable source of influence in Japan at the time. After what must have been a very long journey from India, the man who would later be recorded as the first African samurai stepped foot in Japan in 1579. Exactly where he landed is still debated. Some say Yuzuki, others claim Nagasaki, but it's generally accepted that he arrived somewhere on the Kyushu Highland. It was in the company of the Jesuit priest Alessandro Belignano, who had been appointed to head the Jesuit missionary efforts in the Indies, a region that at this time still included Japan. For the next 2 years, the African accompanied Alessandro as part of his security detail doing his missionary work across Kyushu Highland. By 1581, Belignano was preparing to leave Japan for India and needed to pay his respect to the most powerful man in the country, Oda Nobunaga, to secure safe passage. From Kyushu, his entourage made their way to Osaka, where they immediately caused a stir. People stumbled over themselves just to catch a glimpse of the dark-skinned foreigner. When they reached Mayako, the imperial capital, the excitement escalated into a full-blown riot at the Jesuit residence. The crowd became so overwhelming that the gates of the compound were broken down and people trampled on each other in eagerness to see his skin. The news of the commotion in the imperial capital reached Nobunaga, who became very eager to meet this dark-skinned man and sent for him. The African man was brought to Nobunaga, who was at the temple of Honno-ji, by a Jesuit priest who already had a relationship with Nobunaga. On seeing the African, Nobunaga believed the pigment of his skin must be a trick and ordered he be stripped down to his waist and his skin scrubbed with an assortment of soaps, lotions and ointments. Of course the skin didn't wash off, nor did the water get any darker, which I guess made Nobunaga happy. So happy that he called for his sons and threw a banquet at which the African man was showered with many gifts. I would like to add here that it's important to understand that to Nobunaga, and maybe the larger Japanese society at the time, the African represented a feeling that a greater world beyond the 3 countries was coming to Japan. Nobunaga was someone who was fascinated by anything beyond the 3 countries, as it indicated his power, glory and importance in an ever-expanding world. The Portuguese, the Jesuit, and undeniably a man whose skin was dark, conveyed to him this concept in its purest form. So let's get back to the story. Nobunaga was so impressed with the African, who was in his mid-20s at the time and was described to having the strength of 10 men, standing at an imposing 6 feet. He towered over most people in Japan, making him a striking figure of power and authority. Nobunaga may have seen him not just as a formidable warrior, but also a symbol of influence, an exceptional presence to show what he was capable of achieving, what others deemed impossible. Nobunaga requested that the Jesuit allowed the African to stay with him, effectively freeing him from slavery. He then made the African his retainer, granting him a stipend, a home, and weapons. As a result, Yasuke became the first foreign-born samurai beyond the 3 nations. This brings me to the elephant in the room. Was Yasuke really a samurai? I mean, there's no shortage of videos, tweets, and comments claiming that his story is merely a product of DE high agenda. However, nothing could be further from the truth. The term samurai has undergone a semantic shift over time. When it first appeared during the Enyang period, a samurai wasn't the armored warrior we imagine today, but was rather a servant of the imperial court, responsible for maintaining law and order. In many ways, they were akin to secretaries, butlers, or law enforcement officers, essentially civil servants by modern standards. By the time we reached the Sengoku period, when Yasuke served as a retainer to Oda Nobunaga, the term samurai had evolved to refer to those who fought in battle and served a daimyo. It now served as a marker of function than class, and within this framework, Yasuke was undeniably a samurai in service of Oda Nobunaga. What makes things murky for many people is that the definition of samurai began to change when Toyotomi Hideyoshi enacted laws that formalized the samurai class. These laws not only defined samurai as a distinct social class, but also making their status hereditary, linking both class and function in a way that had never been seen before. It essentially created a caste system. So let's get back to Yasuke. Yasuke's time in service to Oda Nobunaga was undoubtedly some of the most remarkable periods of his life. Nobunaga was deeply fascinated by Yasuke and often seen in public by his side and even dining with him, and honor rarely extended to his other retainers. Their close relationship even sparked rumors that Nobunaga was going to make Yasuke a lord. From here, Yasuke was recorded as accompanying Nobunaga on visits to newly conquered territories. It's sort of like a bodyguard, if you will. But Yasuke's story, or at least the little history as preserved, was about to reach its dramatic conclusion, right where it all began. On June 21, 1582, Akishi Mitsuhide, a trusted vassal and samurai under Nobunaga, led a force of 13,000 men in open rebellion against Nobunaga. Nobunaga was caught off guard. He was spending the night at the temple of Honno-ji with only a small force of about 30 men, including Yasuke. They fought fiercely but were hopelessly outnumbered. As the temple burned around them, Nobunaga took his life through seppuku. Yasuke survived the battle and retreated to Ninjo-goshu, where Nobunaga's son and heir, Nobutada, was making a final stand. Alongside the remaining Oda forces, Yasuke fought desperately to protect his new lord, but the battle was already lost. The enemy's bombardment were relentless. Eventually, Yasuke was captured. Unlike the other samurais, Yasuke was denied the honor of seppuku. Mitsuhide saw him as something less human, an outsider, a curiosity rather than a warrior, something that was animalistic. Instead of executing him, he sent Yasuke back to the Jesuits, who praised the heavens that he survived the battle. This was the last known historical record of Yasuke. A man so honorable and brave that he chose to stand and fight, refusing to abandon those who treated him as one of their own. I like to imagine that he somehow made it back home to his people, where he would told them stories of the strange and distant lands he had been to. Well, that's all, folks. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I want to sincerely apologize to any Japanese viewers. I understand I didn't pronounce some of those words properly, and I truly appreciate your understanding and forgiveness. Well, this video was originally meant to release alongside Assassin's Creed Shadows, but life happened. I had to move and it delayed things quite a bit. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon or YouTube membership. Your support goes a long way and truly helps keeps things running. A massive shout out to all my amazing patrons. You guys are the backbone of this channel, and we got new members too, so thank you so much for joining the community. The other ways you can support the channel by liking the video, sharing it, and also leaving a comment. It really helps with the algorithm, and of course, hit that subscription button if you haven't already. You can also stay connected by joining me on all my social media platforms. Also remember to join the Discord. We're doing some fun stuff there now, or at least I am. Until next time, I am Oluwabamshe. Bye.